Hey guys, thanks for tuning in here. Want to just hop on camera here, give you an update on what's been going on in my collecting hobby or whatever you want to call it over the past 4.5 years. I actually just posted the last chapter of my book for free on YouTube. So the book obviously is Confessions of a Baseball Card Addict. It came out at the end of 2018. And if you want to buy an actual copy, you can do that on Amazon. Please do that, by the way. But if not, you can actually go on YouTube, and I have a playlist of every single chapter that I'm reading. So that way you can listen to the entire book for free. Um, so I've been wanting to do that for a long time. I was actually approached by a company to pay me a good amount of money to do that. And I hemmed and hawed, and I ultimately said, you know what? I think it'd be cooler to do it on YouTube, just to have it be free for everybody out there. I never meant to make money off of the book. It was just really a labor of love. It was something that I'd always wanted to do. I always wanted to write a book and never really could find a reason to until I got into collecting, and specifically super collecting Conseco cards. This actual video is really to kind of cover what's been going on, the ground that's been going on from the end of 2018, whenever I launched the book, to right now. And the reason why is because I have so many people that read the book and they go, "What are you doing now? Like, what's going on?" Like, I'm seeing what you're posting online, it seems completely different from what you were, talking about in the book. So I wanted to address that, and it's kind of fun to do a little bit of a rehash, of a recap of the past 4.5 years, because it's been awesome. It's been an amazing last few years in the hobby. COVID has obviously changed a lot of things, so maybe it'll be fun to kind of get my perspective of what the hobby was like just before COVID, because there's a lot of people out there I know that are going to be listening and watching this that are new to the hobby since COVID. And all they know is about where sports cards and everything were up here, and not necessarily when they were down here. And yeah, they're coming down a little bit now, but definitely not to pre-COVID levels. That's why I see, anyways. Anyways, let me tell you what I did and just a quick recap. Number one, go listen to the book if you haven't heard it yet, or buy it. I mean, either way is fine. I just want people to hear my story. But ultimately, what happened was I ended up amassing this massive Conseco collection. I sold it all, ended up turning a profit. And then a little bit of what is covered a little bit in the book at the end, but not in depth, is what I actually ended up doing. I took, and I've written about this stuff in my website at tammanbaseballfan.com quite a bit, as well as on my podcast. Also, I talk about this too. But what I ended up doing was I ended up kind of doing a little bit of a U-turn. Not that I wanted to go back to being a super collector, but I wanted to still be in the hobby, of baseball cards, and still recognize that Canseco has always been my favorite player. But I wanted to still go after his cards, but only the ones I really, really, truly loved. So what that meant was, so there's a really big difference, I think, from several years ago when I was super collecting to now. One of those differences is, let's say Topps pulls out like a tribute set or something for 2023. And let's say there are two different Conseco cards, and each of the Conseco cards has 7 or 8 parallels. There's a red, yellow, pink, green, purple, orange, blue, whatever there is. And of course, the superfractor. Don't forget the superfractor, right? I don't go after those really anymore. If there's a really special one that just like really wows me, then I get it. I try to get it. There's a lot of other collectors out there, so sometimes I don't get what I want. A lot of times I don't get what I want, and that's okay. So there's a lot of other people out there that want the same type of cards that I do too. So, um, but a lot of the newer releases, like for instance, back in 2022, I didn't get any Conseco cards, but like maybe 3 or 4. So far in 2023, I've actually gotten more, which has been wild. Like, I've gotten some pretty cool cards. But anyway, so to kind of rewind back into 2019, when I decided to come back. I ended up identifying a handful of cards I really wanted to get back. And I was able to get the majority of them back. There's still some that I'll probably never see again. That's okay though, because guess what? This hobby has a ton of cards with the wow factor in them, and you can't get everything, right? And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. So, what else I did though was I branched out, and I noticed that as a player collector, you can kind of pigeonhole yourself into like this real super niche area of the hobby, almost forgetting the greatness that there is everywhere else, which is really kind of a weird deal now when I'm looking from this side of things. Like to me, back then Kinseiko was like the only thing I cared about as far as collecting goes. So what I did was I really kind of branched out a little bit, even toward the end of my Kinseiko super collecting career, so to speak. I started getting into buying wax boxes, and if you take a look, like you'll see in the camera, you look past some of the Transformers there, you'll see some of the wax boxes I have back there. That 89 Fleer one, by the way, is from uh, Billy Ripken Error Run case, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so I've got 85 tops. There's 84 tops, 85 tops, 85 Donruss. Those are the heavy hitters, and then the 89 Fleer, of course, and the rest is like 89 Donruss, which I love the colors of 89 Donruss. I love the colors of the box and of the wax packs. I just think they're magnificent. 88 score and 89 tops. I mean, the box art on 89 tops also. Just love it. So anyways, I still have love for wax, but what I did was I ended up getting this like amazing collection of wax. I had like a near run of all the wax boxes that were mainly from a sealed case, which is, pretty big money, from 1980 all the way up to like 92, 93-ish. And so I ended up amassing all these and realized, wow, like even after I sold my Kinseiko stuff, I was like, wow, these wax boxes take up a lot of space. Like they just take up a lot of space. There's like, what do I do with the lack of room here? So I ended up selling them, and I think I ended up doubling my money on them because I saw something in the FASC, which is from a sealed case market, that a lot of people didn't yet, which means that I thought that they were going to do really well in the future as far as price goes. I was right, and I was a little too right, unfortunately. So I'll get to that in a second. After that, what I did was I ended up started buying up a bunch of PSA rookies of cards from players, mainly from the 80s, but some from the 90s and some even present, which is fine. I mean, I had some good ones. I like the 84 Fleer Update Clemens, and the 83 tops Boggs and Gwynn and Sandberg, and the 82 Ripkins, and the 85 tops McGuire, and so all of those I had. And I realized that I just kind of put them in their slabs up on the hutch up here, and I didn't really mess with them all that much. So it wasn't really fun. I ended up breaking even for the most part. But I sold them. I sold in the wax boxes. I sold those, and I ended up getting into vintage. And so I put a lot of money into vintage. And I started. What I did was I ended up getting like a little bit of everything. Some like Old Judge, Allen Ginter, Gowdy, 52 tops, all those, because I wanted to kind of get a feel for what my tastes were. And ultimately I sold all those too. So then COVID hits. And COVID was probably a little bit, I don't know, I don't remember how much of a motivation it was for me to sell, but I think there was some motivation for me to sell, because pre-COVID, or right when COVID was hitting, rather, I was thinking in the back of my mind, the card market was probably going to crash. And if I was going to sell, I probably should do it sooner than later, because there's going to be people that are out of work, and they're just not going to have money to spend on cards. So might as well do it now, right? Whew. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Almost everything skyrocketed. So the wax boxes I doubled my money on. If I kept them, I could have 5x'd. The PSA rookies, man, I could have done way better. I remember specifically one of them was an 89 Upper Deck Griffey PSA 10. I think I got for 450, and I ended up selling for profit for at 475 or something, right? Like, well, that dang card ended up getting to be like at some point, the highest point, I think it was about $3,000. And I remember there was a little bit of talk on the forums, like saying, why is there a reason why this card wouldn't go 100 grand to 100 grand? I'm like, that's ridiculous. They made way too many of them. But then I started thinking about it, like the A6 Flare Jordan isn't really all that, all that rare. And if it can go crazy, why couldn't the Griffey go crazy? And so obviously it didn't go that high. I don't think it went past 3 grand. I think you could probably get them for about 1,500 now in PSA 10 format. But in any event, man, that was kind of a tough pill to swallow, and same with the vintage. Like I had a bunch of really great vintage cards, and I just sold. I made a little bit of money off of it, but not a whole lot. So lesson learned, I guess. If you go through a pandemic, then maybe hold on to your cards. I don't know. I don't really know exactly what the formula is or whatever, but that's what happened. Now, the plus side of it is that I was able to really kind of focus on what I truly enjoyed as far as the hobby goes, and especially vintage. And I got some incredible cards, and I still have them. I ended up figuring out what specifically I liked. I targeted them, and some of the cards did really, really well. They ended up more than making up for the loss that I made on the other cards. Here's one of them. This is an 1887 Gypsy Queen, Mike King Kelly. It's actually one of his rarest cards. And for those of you who don't know King Kelly or 19th century in general, as far as baseball goes, look it up, you guys. There is so much history, so many fascinating stories that come out of that time period. And so this story, this card has a massive story behind it as well. And I wrote about it in on my website probably maybe a year or so ago, year and a half ago, I think it was. So it talks about I think I named it 134-year mystery solved or something. And there's just so many cool stories behind these cards. King Kelly, by the way, he's had books written about him, like tons of books written about him. He was that incredible of a player and that interesting of a person. And he was basically like the Babe Ruth of his time. And he passed away a little bit before Babe Ruth was even born. But anyways, I keep thinking about this, which is really kind of a fun thing. Had I not sold my Canseco collection, I would have never gotten into this incredible vintage stuff. And man, it would have been a mistake. Like I was actually talking to Holly about this tonight because she was asking about it, and after I told her, hey, I finished the book and putting it online, and it's really kind of a whew. I'm glad I didn't go forward and just continue trying to get every single Canseco card out there. It has been an incredible ride, like just such a fun thing, and I just I have way cooler cards now than I ever have had in my entire life. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't sell my Canseco collection. And I've got some cards of Honest Wagner, Ty Cobb, Shoeless Joe Jackson. I'll probably have to do an update video at some point. I've got a couple 19th century sets. It's like owning history, if that makes sense. Like baseball history is so incredibly fun. It's like you get chills when you look at this stuff, and it's just such a neat thing. But anyway, so as far as Canseco cards that go, like if you look over my shoulder, that shelf is all Canseco stuff. Like I still have mad love for Canseco cards, but I only have about a couple hundred cards of his. That said, almost every single one of them are super heavy hitters. Like they're really, really, really good cards. And I noticed something also that's kind of interesting. When I stopped super collecting, well, let me talk about when I was super collecting. When I was super collecting, I was not focused on what I had. I was focused on what I didn't have. And I would continually focus on what I didn't have. So the most important card was the card that I was going for at that point. Now that I'm not super collecting, I am so much more satisfied with what I have. I'm much happier with what I have in my collection right now. I'm not always looking for, oh, I gotta get this next card, gotta get this next card. And the fun thing is also, by the way, is a lot of these cards I've picked up, like the super rare ones, even I've had my collection now 2, 3 times. And each one of them, almost each one of them, has like a really fun story attached to them. So collecting is not about just the destination, it's about the journey. And I found that out a lot over the last few years, that even like I talked about this on my podcast the other day, how I was I was in the middle of this really big trade with a guy, and it didn't work out. Like it ended up taking like 3, 4 days and ended up just kind of falling apart. But for the 3 or 4 days, it was fun. It was just absolute fun, like kind of going through the motions, making offers and anticipating things and hoping it'll work out. And I love it. I mean, I've done a boatload of trades before in the past. Um, Most of them do not work out, but some of them do. And when they do, it's just kind of a fun story. It's a fun story of what happens. But yeah, so I've got some really great Conseco cards. I've got some incredible vintage cards that I'm just super happy with. That's another thing. I have contentment with my vintage collection too. Um, I also ventured out of card collecting a little bit. You know, I'm still here, but I've done a few other things as well. One of them is comic books. I love many of the Marvel movies, not necessarily as much anymore, but I love a lot of the Marvel movies. And so I've got some key issues of X-Men and Fantastic Four and the Avengers and that sort of thing. And um, I've had a blast picking up those as well. And I would have never have thought about getting them had it not gone through selling the Conseco collection. One of the comics, which is kind of fun, is it's the Incredible Hulk number 181. Now, this is the first appearance of the Wolverine, and I remember seeing a hoarder show years and years and years ago about this comic, and this guy was basically hoarding this massive comic book collection. His fiance or wife, whoever, was like, "This is getting nuts. Our apartment's getting overrun by these comics." And ultimately, he agrees to take his collection over to a shop. And the guy said, "Hey, I'll tell you what, I'll trade you all of these comics in your collection for Hulk 181." And my ears kind of perked up, I was like, "Why would he do that? What is this? I don't know anything about comic books, but what is this?" He goes, "Well, it's the first appearance of Wolverine." I was like, "That sounds like a Wolverine rookie card. That's kind of cool." And so every now and then I would look and check the pricing. I think back then it was like $500. So like the next year, what I did was I checked the price, and it was up to like $1,500. And that dang comic kept going up and up and up. And I go, man, I wish I just bit the bullet. And even though it was kind of outside of my comfort zone, I would just wish I got it. Now it's like out of, just kind of like out of the stratosphere. Well, when I sold the Conseco collection, I started thinking, I wonder what it is now. And I think at that point, it ended up being like $2,900 or $3,000. And I go, oh, well, I think it's still going to go up a little more. So I ended up getting it. And uh, at some point, it was like going for $6,800 after I bought it, but it's come back down quite a bit, but not nearly down to what it was before. But I was able to get that comic and a few others, and gosh, I love these books. I only have like about probably 10 or 15 comics, but they're all really good. You see a few others over my shoulder here. Yeah, I mean, it's been really fun. So something else was muscle figures. And I don't know if you remember the muscle figures or not, but they're from the 80s. And so they came from, they're the little flesh figures. Let me see if I can get some here and show you here. So like this is one of the flesh guys there, and they came in different colors. Like here's one of the claw, and it's green, and I don't know what it was. There's something that was like that triggered my childhood memory to get into these. And by the way, this little hobby here can get like pricey because there's like super rare pieces. There's rabid collectors. And it's been really fun going into these other hobbies where you find out like there's still people that are like just as crazy over these things as there were for baseball cards, which is really kind of a fun deal. So I've really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that. It's been kind of just a weird hodgepodge of things. So you have like Conseco cards, then you have pre-war vintage, then you have comic books, then you have muscle figures. I'm not really actively buying any comics. Same with the vintage baseball cards. I haven't bought any vintage cards in like over a year because I'm just content with what I have. Muscle figures, I'll get some every now and then if I want to complete a rainbow or something, which is really fun, to do. I really enjoy that. I actually have a piece coming in, hopefully tomorrow or Saturday, to finish a run of what's called number 138, which is Personal Man. He looks like a little computer guy, which is really fun. But last but not least, what I've been getting into is Transformers. And they take up a lot of space, you guys. There's a lot of them. So I'm actually more involved in collecting those right now than anything else. Now, baseball cards will obviously always be my first love. But Transformers, I'm just really having fun with them. And I'm actually figuring out how to like kind of sometimes, fuse baseball cards with them. I think I did a video of this here. So here's a custom Optimus Prime I did. And so you see there's a hole in there. You check out YouTube, I have a video of this, but this is a miniature transforming Optimus Prime. And he actually goes in here. And so there you go. And so it's kind of a fun card by itself. But I also did one, a Conseco card back in May last year called the Mystery Cabinet, and that's by far, it's the craziest card you guys are ever going to see. It's a cabinet card, so it's not really like a baseball card because it's like a big card, right? And it's very thick, but it transforms into doing all sorts of things. Like, so you look at a normal card and you flip it back and forth and you say, okay, I'm going to show you this card. We're done looking at it, right? Well, with the Mystery Cabinet that I created, it took 45 minutes to walk through everything, I think it was. And that was really cool. But anyway, so back to the Transformers though, like it's really fun, been really fun kind of going through and getting those. They do rainbows as well, which that's kind of my weakness sometimes. Like there could be a Starscream or something. Well, they've got a Starscream that's battle damaged and gold and clear and shattered glass and all these other types of things. So I've also enjoyed getting into some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Voltron, and it's been fun just being able to branch out like that and just enjoying a little bit of everything out there, and that really kind of piques my interest. And it's been a blast, like it really has. I've obviously, with anybody that's collecting, it's always a good idea to learn how to do two things. Number one, buy at the right price, so that way whenever you sell, you don't lose money. But number two, learn how to sell. And so that's what kind of helps me get through these various hobbies, because I'm able to not just buy and accumulate, but also sell and trade and that sort of thing. And it's all fun. It's all fun to be able to do that sort of thing, right? But baseball cards, I owe a lot to, because that's where I learned. That's where I learned to be able to wheel and deal and everything. And it's just been so fun of a learning process with that. And I've learned so much over the years. Ever since I was 9 years old, like I even go to garage sales every weekend. I say, hey, do you have any baseball cards? And they ask, no, I'm sorry, we don't. But are you a collector? I say, oh yeah, I've been collecting since I was 9 years old. Cardboard truly does run in my veins. It's a lifelong obsession / hobby, and I love it. It's a lot more under control now, which is a very good thing. You don't want this to become an addiction or something that really kind of takes over or whatever. But what a fun outlet, and a way to be able to make some money, and on top of that, to find meaningful relationships, even if it's just online with other friends and everything. Um, it's been really great being able to, just talk with a lot of you guys out there and hang out online and do trades and everything. It's been really fun. But anyway, so I guess that's really kind of all that I have to say about where I've been in the past 4.5 years. I haven't gone anywhere, by the way. If you follow me on social media, you see I'm posting every single day, and it's normally it's about the cards I'm creating, which I've had, by the way, just a blast. I just really enjoy that stuff. It is so fun to me to be able to create these cards for you and for me and for my collection as well. But anyway, so that's kind of where I am. It's I'm still actively, picking up Canseco cards I think are like super special. And I'm also, uh, I have my eye out for vintage cards if I ever see something that's really great. But thing is like the vintage cards, they can get super expensive, so it's kind of hard to pick up a lot of those. So I mainly just enjoy what I have, and I'm just very thankful that I picked them up for pre-COVID prices. But and then of course I enjoy looking at the comics I do have. Again, I don't really buy too terribly many of those anymore. And and the Transformers. I love the Transformers. I love being able to flip those back and forth, um, and it's kind of a little bit of a stress reliever for me, which is fun as well. But yeah, that's really kind of where I'm at, guys. So yes, thank you very much for following me here on YouTube. I appreciate it. And if you read the book, thank you. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. Like I said, this was never meant to be a money making thing. I'm thankful that it ended up making me some money. But it was about telling my story, and it was about me like realizing my goal, my lifelong dream of being able to write a book. And the greatest thing ever is whenever I hear from you guys saying that you just love my book, and it means the world to me. It really does. By contrast, if somebody says it sucks, it kind of hurts. I'm like, oh gosh, what did I do wrong? But that's just kind of I guess part of how I act. I guess sometimes. But yeah. So if you read it, thank you. If you have not, I'd love for you to pick it up on Amazon. If you don't have the extra money, I'd love for you to check it out on YouTube. It's free, and you get to hear me reading it. And my wife says that the greatest thing that she can fall asleep to is the sound of my voice. Not because it's my voice, but it's because we talking baseball cards. So if you need a sleep aid, then you or your spouse, and your spouse isn't into baseball cards, turn on my book, and I'm sure she'll be able to fall asleep real quickly there. But anyways, so thank you all for watching this. I hope you all have a great day. Feel free to ask any questions you have in the comments. And feel free to reach out to me, tanmanbaseballfan@gmail.com. If you have any cool Canseco cards, I'd love to see. If you have any custom cards that you're interested in having done, I always love taking on projects. So there you go. All right. Thanks for watching. Hope you all have a great day.